This demonstration is going to be performed by our development team. We're looking forward to getting feedback from all of our participants. There will be a survey going out later, and the chat session will also be monitored. So if you do have any questions during the presentation, if you want to post it into the chat so that everybody can see it, that would be fantastic. That being the case, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to Matthew, who is our lead developer, who will be leading this presentation, along with Mariana and Zach Wiseman, two of our developers. Hope you all enjoy it.
What we'll be covering today is going through the changes to the BOM and BOQ structures. We'll talk about the improvements we've made there and why we've made those changes. We will then look at the jobs section, where we will talk about what is a job, and then also look at the reporting structures under that, so such as crew reports, daily reports, and then also job progress reports, and how those can be converted into invoices for billing purposes. And then lastly, we'll look at, if we have time, we'll look at the changes we've made to the EVM structures around projects and the enhancements there. So if we look at the bill of quantities, so previously we had a structure that was, we had decomposed what a BOQ and a BOM were and what the items associated with those structures were. And essentially, we decomposed it too far. I like to use the analogy of, yes, these molecules and cells are still a dog, but we can't recognize it anymore as a dog. So it was creating some confusion to end users, and it was also creating, with very large structures, a navigational nightmare, because we had combined the BOQ and the BOM into a single structure. And technically, they do perform the same way ultimately, but we felt like we've decomposed them too far. So what we've done is we've created separate BOQ, BOM structures. We've also been able to combine those into a really nice representation that makes it easier to navigate and keep those structures moving. So on the left-hand side here, so this item here, the whole screen, this is the BOQ. These are BOQ items, and we have a path down the left-hand side there. That's an internal path. That structure is what we're going to use to understand which of these items make up items above it. So one is made up of 1.1 and 1.2. 1.2 is made up of 1.2.10. And then we have the client BOQ ID. So this is, how is the contractor's client referring to these items, so that we can report back in a way that makes sense to that client. We have title, description, unit of measure, quantity, what currencies, and things like that. If we jump down into one of these BOQ items, such as the concrete works here, we have this BOQ item, and then we can attach bills of materials to these to show what makes up this BOQ item. And then, of course, bill of material has a bill of material items, one or more. From there, this has a similar structure that has a path. It can be hierarchical if you'd like, or this particular structure is just 1 through 9. So, for instance, to get this work done, we're going to need a mason, a helper. We're going to need some concrete, some water to help it cure, and things like that. And each of those can have their own unit of measure, etc. So I feel like, and I hope you do too, this is a clearer structure that's more intuitive to the end user. I'm going to turn this over to Zach to show how this changes work packages. There's some minor changes to the way work packages and work package templates work in order to support this BOQ structure.
Right. So previously, the work package process, we would start with our work package templates after we have our BOM. Then we come in and we view our work package template. Our work package templates are going to have our BOM titles here. I'm going to go ahead and click into this to show you guys the quantities. So the work template quantity that we're going to have, which is the BOM quantity here, or the budget quantity, it's going to be how many of these BOMs we're going to be performing for this template. And as you can see here, the quantity that we're pulling in is 1.73, which is well over what we're doing in our work package template. When we generate these work package templates, we're going to get all of the BMI, all the BOM items that are on the BOM that have a product associated with them. In this case, we wouldn't get any because there is no products here. But the way this works is we're going to go through the structure of the BOM and we're going to hit the first product and come out with that. And that's going to be the work package resource items. So if you do this hierarchical, you will see the specific products associated with that on the resources and the quantities that you'll need to complete that. Also, the cost will populate on that. So that's a little bit of a change to how we've done our work package system. Some things that have changed on the work package itself. So yeah.
This flows into the way work packages have worked for a while now, and that product specification is part of the continuous elaboration and the specification of items from the BOM over time, but prior to actually ordering and installing those items.
Right.
Okay, let's take a look at jobs.
I want to take some time, I want to take a break from the presentation and take some time to explain the new jobs feature, because during the presentation, during the demonstration, we didn't really explain exactly what we'd done. So consider this as an expansion of the original presentation. The new jobs feature is a parallel workflow to the existing projects. We wanted to be able to address those smaller works that don't necessarily have a BOQ or a work breakdown structure or a schedule or a formal contract, subcontract, and change management structure. You know, these types of jobs, could be a 1 or 2 day affair with one crew of people going out to a site to repair an air conditioner or install a piece of equipment or what have you. Or could be a multi-day affair where the goal of the project is to roof a building or to repair a building from water damage or what have you. The goal was to focus on those types of time and material, cost plus, and unit price billing that would address those kinds of companies that go out and perform these types of construction services, rather than the formal set price or fixed price large construction works. So we had to come into this assuming they wouldn't have a formal documented schedule, they wouldn't have a work breakdown structure that decomposed the works. They might not even come in with an estimate in terms of how this job was going to be done. Rather, they were going to bill directly based on time and material or cost plus with a negotiated price list, or fixed unit price billing where they're billing for, per foot of wall repaired or per cubic meter of concrete poured or what have you. So the goal here was to provide the simplest interface possible in order to support this kind of job. So I don't want you to think about this as, well, this fits into projects, because it doesn't. It's a completely different workflow to the existing project structure. Again, being able to support 1 to 2 day to multiple week jobs. They could have one crew, they could have 15 crews, they could be on one location, they could be on 12 different locations. The goal, again, is to capture the minimum amount of data required in order to document and bill the project. And so thinking about that, what exactly are we focusing on? We're focusing on billing, being able to support multiple crews per job at multiple locations, labor rate matrices so that you can have, for per each given trade or skill, you can have different labor rates for different conditions, and that can be set either by the employee or by the trade. So for example, you can have a base rate, an overtime rate, an at height rate, a hazardous rate, a double time rate, what have you. Mobile crew and equipment time cards so that your crews in the field can fill out a crew time card that captures, who worked, how long they worked, at what rate they were working, was it regular time, overtime, hazardous, what material they consumed, and equipment time in terms of what equipment was used, how long did it run, and be able to quickly capture, basic on-site reports in terms of what inspections were performed, who came on site, what specific events happened, what safety briefs were given that day. What we're not going to support in this, which we still support in our more formal projects, bills of quantities or material. Instead, you have, using X3, we're going to focus on products per site. And as jobs are part of a site, that job then inherits all the products and product pricing from that site. Again, we support customer lists as well so that you can define particular price lists per customer for all your products and trades. Work breakdown structures. We're thinking about this as unstructured work, so no need for a WBS or any of that. No formal contract or subcontract or change management. Again, this is cost plus or time and material or unit price. So if there is an additional work order, well, we just flow it right into the next day's works. Of course, we still support the basic cost categories, and cost code structures are common across both. So you still have unlimited cost codes and unlimited cost categories. That just being a quick overview, I'm going to drop us right back into the presentation where Matt's going to talk about jobs.
So we have a whole new menu item here called jobs. So a job, to relate it back to if you've had exposure to EM construction, a job is kind of the merging of a project and a contract, a simplification per se. For items that don't require the use of work packages, we do different billing structures for these. So on jobs, we support unit price billing, cost plus, and time and material. So this is a cost plus job that we're looking at here, which allows us to enter these markups. So we can create an unlimited number of markups, and we can specify by the type of work or cost associated how that markup is going to get applied. So here you can see we have labor and equipment and subcontract work being marked up 15%, and we're collecting a profit of 20% on material and 10% on subcontracted works. For this particular example, if we look at the setup tab, this is very similar to, if we can go ahead and hit edit here, similar to the way that the project works. We have a cost code schema. We can also have, we have a new thing called role groups. So if you remember prior, we had role templates. What we've done is we've grouped those templates into a group and allow you to assign it right here on the job. So there's no need to go to another screen to bring in your roles for permission purposes. There's also no reason to go to another screen to enter your cost code schema. By choosing these here, we eliminate the need to go to those two other screens in order to get a job set up. So increasing the speed at which you can set up a new job. So, and if we go to the financial tab there, so here we can see our total cost broken down by material, labor, equipment, and expenses. And then as well as we can see the total amount that we've invoiced so far. Okay. We're going to move on to crew reports. So I'm going to go through these kind of in the order that they would be created and the order that they kind of work. So first off, we need to get a report from our crew. What work was done? Who was there? What material was used? So this one's already part of a daily report. So, but this is fun. So we'll take a look at this report here. Evidently, they didn't use any material, but they did use some equipment. And then also, we've got some laborers logged in here. Looks like we're just standard rate type employee class. Those the trade class and the rate type work just like they do for a project. So we can have, let's say, for instance, carpenter overtime, carpenter hazardous. If you have a carpenter working underwater, you can have that too. So the rate types are unlimited, as well as the trade classes. And then we can associate rates with each one of those combinations where they intersect, and therefore get the appropriate costs and expenses to the project. Then also we can have expense reports filed. So if this crew is out of town, they can use the X3 expense reporting, and then also link those back to this report for this day. We also captured here what safety items were covered with this crew prior to them starting work, so that those can be aggregated into a daily report by the project manager or job supervisor. That's a crew report. Crew reports help us capture cost of, what items were used, materials, equipment, and things like that. So this is on the cost side of things. It does play a part in other in certain billing methods. So obviously CostPlus, we really need to know what our costs were. Obviously we don't know what our costs were, just so we make sure we're running a good company here. It also plays into if we're dealing with time and materials. So what materials were used, what labor was used. It doesn't really matter how much we spent on that, because with time and materials, it's more about what did we agree to sell that for. So how much does a carpenter cost you? Doesn't really matter how much I pay them or what I charge the job for it. It's about how much I pay. So that's the difference between cost plus and time and material. And then when we talk about unit price, we'll see that this gets the cost side, but it doesn't actually get us to what are we selling. I keep referring back to what are we selling as an item to relate it back to the fact that this is ERP, and ultimately we are selling something to our client. And we'll see where the sales side of that comes in for unit price. But for both cost plus and time and materials, this is where we're getting those items, is ultimately from the crew report. Now these crew reports can be gathered up, so we can have multiple crews working at the same time. These can be gathered up into a daily report. We call it a daily periodic report because we're not going to dictate that you do them daily. Typically, I've always heard them referred to as daily reports, so but they can cover a larger period than just a day. Automatically, the daily periodic report will gather up all crew reports. If I've already created my daily report but not yet approved it, if I create a new crew report, it will automatically join the appropriate daily report, automatically pick that up. If I have approved my daily report and I try to create a crew report that covers that same period, it will refuse to create the crew report. So there's some checks and balances there, so that as the project manager who's creating the daily report, if I've already closed out the day, then I assume that I've already got all my crew reports. If I didn't, then I probably want to unapprove my daily report, create the crew report, and then review and approve my daily report again. So this is just a summary of what crew reports were captured, totals up all the labor for the day. And then from here, we can create a job progress.
Also a note on daily periodic progress reports is sales invoices. Once we create a sales invoice, we'll see that in a second, how that works, but we can directly see where and which sales invoice this was associated with. And sales invoicing works similar to approved. Once something's been invoiced, it cannot add costs to this specific entity. You would have to create another one to capture anything done further within the date range. Just as a note for daily periodic reports.
So job progress report is a bundle of both the daily periodic reports as well as a tool for doing inspection as for what work has been accomplished. And that falls under that unit price section. So if this was a unit price contract, we could go and do an inspection of what work has been completed since the last time I did a job progress report. And then job progress reports are what we actually invoice off of. So on a unit price contract, we're going to be looking at the unit price section here. On a CostPlus or time and materials, we're going to capture these crew reports down there at the bottom. So those crew reports will those are actually daily progress reports. We will walk down through the daily progress reports to the crew reports associated with them, to the material collections, and get all the material and the labor and equipment cost and pull those in for CostPlus, or for time and material, we'll pull the items logged as consumed, whether that be equipment, labor, or material, and look up what the sales price for those items are versus the cost when we create our invoices.
Right, and we can take a look at a invoiced unit price progress report. So we can see that we have our daily reports to reflect what it costs us to do this progress. And then we can see what items we've used and how many of those items that we've used. So for instance, here we had wall demolition. So we capture that here, and when we go to the invoice, we'll pick up these unit price products. Yeah, we can also see, like I said, the totals that we accrued from our crew reports and daily progress reports. And this helps us reflect back to the job on how much the job is actually costing us versus how much we've actually paid. So yeah.
So now if we look at creating invoices, once all this is approved, we don't require the job progress to be approved in order to invoice it, but once you do invoice a job progress, it's going to be locked down because it's been invoiced. So can we create a new one? So once we pick the sales site and the customer that we'd like to invoice, we have a new left menu list called Job Progress. and any job progress for the combination of that sales site and that customer will show up here. If you click over on the Lines tab and then check the job progress, we go out and this must be our unit price bill, this unit price job. So we go out and we look at the job progress that you just chose. If there's more than one, you can choose to bill more than one on a single invoice. And we go out and we get all the unit price items that have been logged on those job progress. So the job progress, once again, being I've gone out and inspected how much work I can do. So if I say that I'm going to, these are marked as units, but let's say they're linear feet of wall demolition. I've done, for oddly enough, 16 linear feet of wall demolition, not very much. What can I bill that for? And this will obey all X3 price list options. So whether you have the default price in the product, or if you have a more complicated price list set up, or if you have price lists set up per customer, however you would normally set up pricing in X3, this will obey when it comes to that unit price bill. It will go out and get the appropriate price for that particular customer and that product that's active at this time. And then it'll put it in. So we're charging $300, I guess, per foot of wall demolition. So we've done 16 of that. It automatically calculate off. Once we create this and we invoice it or we post it and all that, then our job will be updated with that amount being invoiced. So, yeah. Now, if we look at creating one for a CostPlus job, it's going to look similar but different as well. So we pick a different job that we're working on, and then now we don't have any job progress.
Yeah. So here's one that's already been created. We'll go and look at that one. So these are the lines on a CostPlus.
So unlike unit price, it's not what have I delivered to you that we've said we'd sell to you, but in this case, demolition. On this job, it's more about what did I use, and therefore what is my cost. And we scroll all the way to the bottom, we'll see that it adds the overhead and the profit from our markups table in our job that we looked at earlier, and automatically calculates it based upon the category of each of those items as to whether or not it is labor or equipment or material. I meant to lead off the conversation with this is our development server, so there's a lot of bad data on here. So don't try to go, oh, well, you said you're going to do 20% on labor. Some of the labor items might be marked as equipment behind the scenes. Whatever the developer was working on that they wanted to test at the time. So don't trust our product setups on this. This isn't really demo seed data. You're getting a very early look at this. So please forgive.
So we have developed a mobile version of Crew Reports. We've done this using a Angular interface front end.
I think the right word is we are developing.
Still in progress. And this allows us to report from the field. So here's an example of what this will look like on an iPhone X in this case. We'll go ahead and switch this to an iPad. So this is what we've been working on. to allow our users to report from the field. So we'll go ahead and create a crew report for our restore project, our restore job, and we'll create this for the 11th. We get our location only for that job. Here we can set our supervisor. As we saw in the crew reports, we'll just walk through the creation here. We're going to add this in our labor. This works similar to an X3 table. As we were mentioning, this is a work in progress. So we will have the ability to delete in the future these lines. So here we can select all of our employees.
And this is about capturing the data on the device, not necessarily going back and reviewing. So if you remember from the crew reports in X3, we had a lot more statistical data, so actual cost and totals and things like that. What we're trying to do here is simplify the UI down to just simply a data entry and capture, so that whoever's using some form of a mobile device has an interface that is conducive to doing that without having to sit down in front of X3.
So we'll go ahead and select the trade class and the rate type. Give them 9 hours. Add another one. We can also add materials from here. This will just show basic information about the product that you're putting on this crew report. So you get concrete unit of measure and how much you used. So we'll say 50 cubic meters. Right. I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit on this. So we can also see that we have our equipment here as well. This will pull in our wet hour rate, just basic information about what we have. Since we have concrete, we'll go ahead and put our mix truck, give it 9 hours, the same as our, just having a little bit of trouble scrolling there. So I'll zoom out just a little bit. But let's also say maybe we use a dump truck here, or a bulldozer. We'll say we had a bulldozer for an additional 9 hours, and safety reports. So this may be something that we cover at the beginning of the day with our crew. So then we can scroll down and we hit save. So this will save our crew report. This will go into X3 and post all of this data to it. So from field reporting, we will be able to create crew reports and edit existing ones. We are currently working on the edit screen, so that will come. So we'll go ahead into X3 and view the crew report that we just created. Wrong server. So we'll come into our crew report here, search for our job, and we can see the one that we've just created. We'll display this. So here's our mix truck that we used for 9 hours and our job cost. This will give us a more detailed overview of what our crew report actually was. We have plans to add description to the crew report creation. The description can be things, what did we do? This is an overview of what all of our collections actually mean. This is our progress for the day. So yeah, we can see our safety filled in and our labor. So yeah, this was our attempt to make a mobile interface for end users to enter from the field, not having to come back to the desktop. And X3's mobile representations can be a little finicky sometimes, so this has been a good solution for us. So there's that.
So next we're going to look at the EVM changes. So
Actually, Matt, before we get into that, let's just sum up on this. So what's the overall process here for a job?
So the overall progress is we need to create the job, which tells us who the customer is, what the billing method is, and all the other metadata around that job. From there, we need to perform some work, obviously, and log all that with the crew report. And then our job supervisor or our project manager, whoever, creates a daily or a periodic report that sums up those crew reports. And then when we're ready to bill, we create a job progress report. If it's a unit price type contract, we need to go out and inspect the quantity of the work that's being completed. You know, I've installed X number of square feet of carpet. And that's a set price on my price list. Or if it's time and material or CostPlus, we're going to get that from the data that we need from the crew reports. Because at that point, we've already logged what our costs were or what items we've used and time that we spent and logged. So the last step being we create a sales invoice and we choose which job progress report or reports we want to invoice for. It'll auto-populate our lines. We can then edit and add to that. It will automatically calculate any markups for CostPlus and attach those, and we invoice the job. And we keep doing work and keep invoicing.
Fantastic. So we set up a job in the system. We send the crew out to the field. The crew fills in their daily time cards and their material and equipment consumption. That gets reported back to the office automatically into X3 as those crew reports are approved either by the crew leads or by the job supervisors. They can be aggregated into daily progress reports or periodic progress reports. And then as the overall project manager or billing administrator wants to group those reports into billing items, we can convert those into job progress reports, and then finally AR can convert them to invoices, right?
Correct.
And we've got cost code and category support through all this.
Mm-hmm.
We can break out everything by obviously material, labor, equipment, subcontractor, and expenses. We use X3's expense system, native expense system, integrate to that, and can pull expenses into crew reports, right?
Correct.
So that if they filed a hotel stay, if they filed a food expense, or a travel expense, or mileage, that can come directly into the crew report, can be approved as part of that day's crew report, and then pulled directly into our CostPlus or time and material invoices.
Correct. And then on the daily report right now, the data that we're capturing is the minimum that we needed in order to take those crew reports and turn them into something that's invoiceable. Mm-hmm. So we will be adding at some point additional data items that are important for the job supervisor or the project manager that they want to capture on a daily report. So number of people on site, weather conditions, different items like that. We're focused in our work so far on what it takes to get the billing done. But this same entity can be used to report that additional information and capture it and then produce some form, however, through Crystal or whatever, to deliver that data as to what's going on a daily basis.
And then once those daily progress reports and or job progress reports are done, we can use Crystal reports to output that in an AIA form or in a schedule of value or in an overall AIA progress form. I mean, we haven't built that report yet, but that data is there and ready to go in to a AIA form.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a custom sales invoice, basically, that you want to pull that data into.
Fantastic. So let's talk about EVM.
You have to log back in. Okay, so what we did with EVM is we've gone through, scrubbed all the calculations, improved the flow of data from all of the different items. So as we've added to the ways that cost and billing happen for a project, such as, what's the word I'm looking for? Supply orders, subcontracts, job cards, work packages. We just basically did a once over to make sure that we were capturing all those numbers correctly, which thankfully we were. But we did take the time and the effort to go through that audit. The other items that in the past, the way those costs showed up on the EVM chart was the WBS node that they were attached to needed to have a finished date. So that period had to be closed. Well, if that WBS node covered a 3-month period, I want to see all along the numbers as they're happening, not necessarily once I close the WBS node. Especially if you think about a overhead node in it that might span the whole length of the project. So, where I'm booking my project manager's expense, office space expense, that type of thing. I need to see that all along through the project, not for it to hit at the very end. So we redid the calculations as to how we were handling that. So expenses now hit on the day they actually occur, or we still break it down by a week-by-week period, or whatever you choose in the top left-hand corner there. But the expenses hit within the period that they happen in instead of only once the WBS node closes. So our chart is more real time. I know that kind of sounds weird, more real time. And then we also added the budgeted cost line. The purpose there being, as I'm scheduling work, I can see how close I am to the top-down budget as I'm building up from the bottom up that budgeted cost of work schedule. So in the case on the left-hand side, those lines match up pretty good. Those times were in the past, so good there. If we look at the little bump there around June 25th, maybe we got by. Don't zoom on me yet. So if we look at like the June 25th time period there, maybe we were a little under budget in scheduling our works. If we look at the time period there in July, and I'm not moved this project forward, so we were not quite to that point in real life when this happened. I've not scheduled out all my work yet. There's still work to be scheduled, or possibly I'm coming in way under budget, which would be great. The other features we did add is, as you just saw, we can zoom in to this report now to any period. So I just click and highlight, and now we're zooming in. We can also hold down the Shift key and click and paint to pan within that zoomed area. So we can move within there. And then of course we have the reset button up there at the top to get the whole thing back. So those were our improvements around EVM.
Also, if there are values you just want to see, maybe you don't want to see the payment application lines, you can uncheck these just to view what you may specifically need to view.
So we wanted to leave some time at the end to open the floor up for any questions. Again, this has been a very brief overview of what we've been working on for the last couple of months. Most of it's been focused around jobs, but we did want to get some improvements into the BOQ to address some specific customer requested functionality, as well as do some more work on EVM and refining that and getting that even closer to true. So I'm going to open the floor up to anybody who wants to ask any questions while we have the developers on the call.
Like it. I'm just wondering, I put into the chat real quick. Let me see if there's any answers there. Oh, okay. So yeah. Okay, the report needs to be built. Yeah, I was just wondering, no, it looks good and all of that. I was just wondering if there is any way to preview, because whenever we get into time and material, it depends, there's many billing frequencies, like as you alluded to, there's a daily or a periodic report. So I was just wondering if there was any dashboard view or anything that would maybe, show kind of, okay, there's how many hours consumed against how many things. This is the anticipated billing if you, close the WIP right now or period or whatever you wanted to call it at that point. But then in looking in the comments, it looks like that just needs to be developed.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is give me some kind of analysis of all the work that I have approved in the bucket but not yet have billed. Yep.
Basically unbilled WIP. That's how we'd refer to it, is just an unbilled WIP. Just I don't know, just throwing things out there.
Dude,
what would be nice? And
this is why we wanted to have this call. Is okay, guys, what do we miss? So some kind of analysis of unbilled WIP. That's something we can build. We've got some specific reports that have been requested. Ted requested an SOV AIA billing.
Yep. G702, 703.
Yep. Exactly.
Perfect. Anything else?
The moon.
Okay, come on, guys.
From a sales perspective, Abel.
Yes, sir.
I would like to see kind of a graphical representation, that shows how this new jobs workflow, flows through the system. So basically, you did a recap overview describing it. If we can put that into some kind of storyboard overview that shows that capability of the system and how things flow through as designed right now. Absolutely,
Ted.
Okay. Good. I agree with Tony. It looks good. I mean, for a first effort, the only thing that I would perhaps like to see from a demonstration point of view would be let's put together maybe some more thoroughly built out jobs as examples. Maybe an example of each in a unit price job, CostPlus, and a T&M job that has been taken from an actual small job that's been completed, and populate all of the data from a sample job like that, so that we can really slice and dice what the product allows us to see and how the data is presented, and just get a real feel for what a real job looks like in the system as built right now. And that will allow us to go look back and compare that to other products that we've seen and say, okay, this piece is missing, or we need to have this additional in order to be able to, have an apples to apples comparison with the competitors.
Fantastic.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that'll help us when we demo it too, of course.
Yeah, the seed data is something that we have, we've yet to build on this, and it's something that we've got in our backlog to do. We just want to get development
Great.
a little bit closer to closed.
Yep.
Any
Fair
questions
enough.
about the BOQ system the new BOQ changes that we've made? You want to take a little bit deeper look at that?
Sure. Let's go back a little bit. All right, walk me through the elevator pitch on it. Let me see. There was something.
One of the pieces of feedback that we had gotten around the BOQ system was that it didn't look like a BOQ from the perspective of a traditional system. So for example, the fact that it was the structure itself was so malleable that you couldn't really see a structure. So this is why we put in both an internal path and an external path that allow you to be able to really structure the BOQ the way you would any kind of bid document or any kind of formal BOQ, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay, so going past that, we also wanted to be able to jump into each BOQ and define them specifically as actually, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let Matt talk this. So Matt.
Okay, so real quick on while we're going over to Matt on this. So for BOQ and all of that, thinking resource loaded, CPM, this is still, we can work on BOQs with, Primavera, those kind of things. Is that like a importable format or a linked format with?
So
Primavera
this is the first step towards getting that link more formalized, right? So the goal here was to set up the structure in the system to be more universally acceptable by programs like Sage Estimating and so forth.
Perfect. Gotcha.
And eventually to be able to do pure unit price building at the project level. So straight BOQ billing by quantity at the project level, which is our goal for our next release.
Perfect.
So Matt, did you have any other questions for Matt on this?
No, I'll let him proceed. Up till this point, that was my only question was, driving integration, if there's something that could be driving BOQ format, linking back again, like you alluded to, estimating and those kind of things, pre-project, pre-construction and operational usage.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
One of the things.
All right, Matt, my socks are still on. Blow them off.
Okay. So one of the things I liked about, and the thing I wanted to accomplish here was the fact that the BOQ could have a budgeted cost and a value, but then also the BOMs have, a cost associated with them. We can see here on the line I had highlighted there, the total amount that I put on my BOMs don't equal the cost of this item yet. So as I'm building out those things, I can see the cost that I budgeted on my bill of quantities versus the bill of material and how much, as I attach each bill of material, what that's doing against the budget for that item on the BOQ. So I can't use your mouse, sorry. Let's go over and let's go back to that concrete works. So again here, we get the component cost and the total cost. So to do 1 cubic meter of concrete work is costing us 450. This says dollars, but I actually stole this from a different currency for a real BOM. And then, so to do 1.73, we're at 7.78. The other items that are new, before in our BO structure, BOQ, BOM, that was combined, we had hours and then time per, or quantity and then time per. So in other words, I'm doing something for 8 hours. No, let me back up. I need 2 helpers for 8 hours. So my time per was 8, and then I needed 2 people for 8 hours. So in looking back at examples, hundreds of different examples of BOMs and BOQs, what we never really saw a lot of times was the number of people. So like for instance here, I need a helper on that second line for 0.75 days. Well, I need a mason on the first line for 0.35 days per cubic meter of concrete works. Well, I don't know, is that 2 helpers? Because about, 0.35 times 2 would be 7, 0.7, so 0.75, maybe they got to stay behind and clean up. I don't know, they're helpers, right? Or do I just need 1 helper for almost twice as long as my mason? I don't know. But that's the way we've seen bill of materials. I mean, I looked at literally hundreds of them around construction, and rarely ever did we get how many people. It's always just how many hours or how many days. This is in days, but how many hours, days, whatever. So what we decided to do in order to help us with our labor resourcing measurements that we do in our staff planning is we've added a person pieces field over here on the right. So if it's a piece of equipment or if it's some portion of labor, how many people are going to consume that information, that quantity, so that our quantity is in hours or days. So in this case, we're going to need 0.75 days of helper on that second line. Well, right now, we're planning to have 2 helpers for 0.75 days. That way we can roll that up, and once we start getting our work packages assigned to this, and we can start looking at our labor resources based upon when those work packages are scheduled. Now, always, the construction manager at time of execution can decide, I can only really afford 1 helper, deal with it, get it done, or hey, I'm going to put 3 people on this. How they consume that 0.75 days is really up to them at that point. What we're looking for here is how many people are you planning on, so that we can help you in doing your labor curves. So it's we flip-flopped it a little bit from the way it used to be, where it was quantity of people and then how much time per person. Now it's just tell me the total amount of time, and then also tell me your plan for how you're going to consume that time, how many people are going to be involved. So I just wanted to point that out because it is kind of a reversal of the way we were doing it before. But this is a little cleaner because a lot of times what we weren't getting, especially when we start looking at import data, we weren't getting those number of people. So if we don't get the number of people, we'll default it to 1 and just assume that 1 person is consuming that whole time. And from planning purposes, somebody could go through and go, no, we got 4 people are going to be on that job and 3 on this thing. So, does that make sense?
Yep, just doing the math in my head. I'm not used to seeing it in days. So just wondering, is that a product to sample data 0.7 days instead of 8 hours, 0.35 days instead of 3 hours? Because that's typically what we're going to see is not days. I'm looking at cubic meters, liters, and those kind of things. I'm guessing that's just a product of the data import.
Yeah, this is from a real project based somewhere where they like to use the metric system, and evidently days instead of hours.
No worries. And just an overarching question: if you scrolled all the way to the left right there on that bomb, just back to the beginning, do you have the ability to freeze that column right there, like description column, so when you scroll, that thing stays there?
I wish.
Just a dumb, stupid question. Is that a negative, Ghostwriter?
I wish. No.
Okay. Just curious. Just, again, like Ted was alluding to some sales and demo things. That's kind of one of those, but I guess, column sorting could help with some of that as well.
Plus, you're also dealing with the resolution of our projector.
Gotcha. Is Chris still cranking it to keep the light going, or?
Yeah, we got the mouse going. But typically on our monitors, this whole thing appears on one line. I can see the whole thing. As long as you squish down that description field to about that size, it all normally fits if we get a different resolution. So.
Okay, thank you. So when is this Mark coming out at the end of the month?
So Mark 2.3 is going to go into production hopefully by the end of the month. We'll close out. We'll start heavy testing and production at the end of this month, and hopefully release sometime mid in October, depending on any additional features that get identified and need to be built.
Gotcha. So definitely before year end, then we'll be at least in QA or beta.
Oh, it will be in GA before the end of the year without question.
Yeah, we're moving into our QC phase right now, making sure everything. Yeah, we're finishing up development over the next week or so, hopefully, unless there's some gap that we find, and then moving into quality testing, and then from there packaging.
Excellent. Good work, guys.
Thank you.
Anything else anybody wants to see? Any other questions? Well, fantastic. Thank you all for participating in this event. And if you have any other questions or if you have any comments, there will be a survey going out on a very brief survey going out on this demo in the next couple of days. Other than that, guys, as always, any kind of feedback, any kind of features that y'all see desired in the market, please let us know. All right?
Hey, Abel, when will we get the recording of this?
I'm going to process this recording today, and hopefully it will be up on our private YouTube channel by the end of the week.
Great. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, bud.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you all very much for this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abel. Thanks, Matt.
See you later.